Hello, welcome to Dungeoneers Pack, a channel bringing you player-focused discussions and character guides for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. My name is Josh, thank you for watching. Psionics has had a rough time making it into 5th edition. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything finally put Psionics into the hands of players by introducing 2 subclasses with mental superpowers. So in this video, I'm going to cover the mechanics of the Psi Warrior Fighter subclass, give my opinion on them, and give you some ideas on how you can fit this subclass into the official 5th edition settings. With that said, let's get started. The first feature for this subclass introduces a mechanic that is the backbone for the other features in this subclass. With Psionic Power, we obtain a pool of psionic energy dice. Our dice size starts off at a d6 and further grows as we level into the subclass. At 5th level, the die grows to a d8, at 11th level to a d10, and at 17th level it grows to a d12. We have a number of psionic energy die equal to our proficiency bonus. We can regain 1 psionic energy die if we use our bonus action, but we can't do so again until we finish a short or long rest. We also regain all our psionic energy die after finishing a long rest. Along with the die mechanic, we acquire 3 abilities to spend them on. The first is Protective Field. Whenever we or another creature we can see within 30 feet of us takes damage, we can use our reaction to use 1 psionic energy die. We roll the die and reduce the damage taken by the number rolled plus our intelligence modifier. The next ability is Psionic Strike. Once on each of our turns, when we hit a target within 30 feet of us with an attack and deal damage to it with a weapon, we can expend 1 psionic energy die. We roll the die and deal force damage to the target equal to the number rolled plus our intelligence modifier. And the last ability is Telekinetic Movement. As an action, we target 1 loose object that is large or smaller, or 1 willing creature other than ourselves. If we can see the target and it is within 30 feet of us, we can move it up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space we can see. If the object is tiny, we can move it to or from our hand. We can move the objects with this ability in any direction. We can't use this action again until we finish a short or long rest, or if we spend another psionic energy die to use it again. The psionic energy die mechanic is a far departure from the original idea introduced during its time in testing, and I'm thankful for it. The version that made it into print doesn't push into a new design space, but it's familiar enough to players that it will be easier to grasp. The die mechanic functions identical to the Battlemaster Fighter superiority die. The initial payoffs we can use our psionic energy die really hit on the flavor of using psionic powers in combat. They remind me of a Jedi Knight. The initial telekinetic abilities are well rounded. We have a defensive option that we can use on our allies or ourselves, an offensive option to pile on some damage, and as expected, an ability that allows us to force push or pull an object or willing creature. Telekinetic movement won't allow us to keep an object suspended in the air like the telekinesis spell, or throw objects at an enemy like the catapult spell. Instead, it will allow the fighter class to have some level of utility to help the party outside of combat, but with some creative thinking, this could be helpful in combat. When we hit level 7, we expand our psionic powers and gain 2 additional telekinetic abilities with the Telekinetic Adept feature. The first ability is Psi-Powered Leap. As a bonus action, we gain a flying speed equal to twice our walking speed until the end of our turn. Once we take this bonus action, we can't do so again until we finish a short or long rest, or if we expend a psionic die to use it again. The next ability is Telekinetic Thrust. When we deal damage to a target with our Psionic Strike, the target must make a strength saving throw against a DC equal to 8 plus our proficiency bonus plus our intelligence modifier. If they fail, they are knocked prone or move up to 10 feet in any horizontal direction. The abilities in Telekinetic Adept expand on the psionic character fantasy without relying on the psionic energy die mechanic. Psi-Powered Leap gives the fighter mobility that isn't found in other fighter subclasses. Telekinetic Thrust provides a buff to our psionic strikes. At this point, we have the extra attack feature, so if we use our psionic strike on our first attack and knock the enemy prone, we can follow up with our second attack, which will now have advantage. At level 10, our character will have learned to increase their mental defenses with the Guarded Mind feature. We now have resistance to psychic damage, and if we start our turn charmed or frightened, we can use a psionic energy die and end every effect causing those conditions. Passive defensive buffs are never really exciting. The psychic damage resistance may never come up in your campaign unless it features enemy psionics. The subsequent ability is super helpful to prevent our fighter from becoming incapacitated or a pawn of enemy spellcasters, as it's pretty stereotypical for a fighter to be weak against mental status effects. Guarded Mind is reminiscent of the Monk's Stillness of Mind feature, but the difference is that we don't need to use an action to break the charmed or frightened effects. We can take our full turn as long as we start our turn with the psionic energy die. Bulwark of Force is the next feature we obtain when we hit level 15. As a bonus action, we can choose up to a number of creatures equal to our intelligence modifier, including ourselves, that we can see within 30 feet of us. Each of the chosen creatures is protected by half cover for 1 minute or until we're incapacitated. Once we take this bonus action, we can't do so again until we finish a long rest or spend a psionic energy die to use it again. This is the second feature found in Tasha's that uses half cover as shorthand for defensive buffs. Anyone in half cover can add +2 to their armor class and dexterity saving throws. An interesting thing is that the number of targets we can affect is tied to an ability score, while our psionic energy die and other features found all throughout Tasha's are tied to our proficiency bonus. While I don't find this an issue, a player just needs to be mindful of their intelligence score if they want to target more than one creature with this ability. The final feature for this subclass is Telekinetic Master. When we reach level 18, we can cast Telekinesis without any spell components. Intelligence is our spellcasting ability for this spell. On each of our turns while concentrating on this spell, we can make one attack with the weapon as a bonus action. We can cast this spell again using this feature after we finish a long rest or spend a psionic energy die. The Telekinesis spell represents the pinnacle of our psionic mastery. The feature itself isn't something we haven't seen before. Telekinetic Master is the Eldritch Knight's improved war magic feature with a psionic flavor. The final feature is okay, but unlike the Eldritch Knight, we are locked into a single spell option. I would have preferred improved versions of our telekinetic abilities or additional spell-like options. Before I give my final thoughts on this subclass, let's take a look at how we can play this subclass in the official 5th edition settings. In Forgotten Realms, we can finally play and feel like a Gith. As a Gith Zerai or Gith Yankee, we can now score the planes to eradicate the Mind Flayer threat. In Eberron, similar to Forgotten Realms, we can successfully play a character fantasy exclusive to the setting. We can be a Kalishtar warrior whose mission is to defend the world from the Dreaming Dark. In Ravnica, we can be a more combat-oriented spy for House Dimir. We could be a Dimir spy who has infiltrated the ranks of the Boros Legion to dispose of a high-ranking officer. And finally in Theros, this could be a character from Meletis that has been gifted unique abilities by the legendary Sphinx Metamai to prevent a great disaster from ravaging the polis. Psionics has had a rough time making it into players' hands in 5th edition. The Psionic Warrior finally making it to print is the first step in filling a void missing in the current iteration of the game. Psionics has come a long way and finally has a semblance of mechanics to support them. I do have a small issue with the implementation of the psionic mechanics found in Tasha's. While the psionic energy dice provides a simple and familiar way to execute psionic maneuvers, the mechanic is in no way unique and is a reskinned superiority die from the Battlemaster Fighter. This makes it hard to believe that we will get a standalone psionic class. I think Wizards will continue to introduce more psionic subclasses to other classes in the game. The Psionic Warrior subclass, on the other hand, does accomplish the Jedi Knight character fantasy. All the powers we expect to have as a martial fighter with mental abilities are there. We have telekinesis, psionic powered leaps, and psychic empowered strikes. Aside from these psionic abilities, the other abilities in this subclass let us be a team player, minimizing the damage our teammates take or being able to move them into a better position on the battlefield. The Psionic Warrior is a solid thematic option for the fighter, despite the mechanics feeling borrowed. With that said, I want to hear from you. What do you think of the Psi Warrior Fighter? Let me know down in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, I drop a video every week, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're looking for a well-rounded Druid subclass that can turn the heat up on your enemies, then take a look at my Circle of Wildfire Druid video. You can click on the video on the screen to see the new features this subclass can bring to your table, and how you can fit it into the official 5th edition settings. Alright, I'm out of here, have a good one.